Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show. Thanks for tuning in. Phil Tarrant here. I am the editor of Smart Property Investment. Always a pleasure for you to be joining us on our podcast. Flying solo today. It's only me, so you're going to have to put up with just my voice, but one other guest. And I'm quite pumped about the guest we have on today. It's if you've been tuning in over the last sort of month or so, you might see a bit of a theme as a sort of come together where for some reason we've been stuck a little bit on talking about Generation Y or the millennials and how difficult it is to get into property today. And rightfully, buying property in today's market's a lot harder than what it was 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years ago. Price values versus wages way out of kilter in terms of ratios, and it's changed a lot over the years. And many of the younger crew, the younger generation, are struggling to get that all-important deposit together so they can actually afford a property. So a lot of the commentary we've been having on the show, and you hear it anywhere in the media, Generation Y just can't get the cash together. Now, my point of view on this is that yes, it's tough, but it's always been tough to buy property. I think one of the challenges we have today is that our younger generation want the overseas trips. They want the fancy car. They want to go out partying every day. And rightfully, I'm not going to give them a hard time because I did very much the same thing and got into property investing a little bit later on in life. But our guest today, I feel, is representative of the reality for younger property investors that yes, you can have fun. Yes, you can go and do what you need to do when you're in your 20s and party and see the world and do all that other sort of stuff. But you can also do it investing in property at the same time. So with that brief introduction, I just want to invite Eddie Deline onto the show. Eddie, how you going, mate?
Very good. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's good to see you here. I've been asking for some Generation Ys to get on the show for a little while to fly the flag. And I'm not an old guy. I'm a Generation Xer. I started investing in property when I was about 35, which is about 10 years after you, right? Or probably longer. When did you start?
I started when I was 19.
19. So how old are you now?
Just turned 25.
And how many properties do you have?
I've got 8 properties at the moment.
So you haven't been messing around then?
Yeah, a bit, kind of. I still always found time to go out and party as well. That's the thing, and have fun along the way. So it's been something that I've been building in the background.
So Eddie, I want to have a chat to you today about, I guess, balance. So the fact that you are investing in property at such an early age, and we'll have a chat about why you're doing that and what you hope to get out of it. But it's very much a cake and eat it type of scenario, right? Can you do all the things that most younger 20-somethings are doing and also be thinking about your future? Do those two things go hand in hand?
For me, I don't think they go necessarily hand in hand, but it's definitely something that, it's possible. And it's, if you just got to get creative about it, you've got to think outside the box, you've got to try from a different perspective. And, if you can get into the market early, then it's just going to benefit you later on.
So that's what it's about, time in the market rather than time in the market. So
absolutely.
On the show, we talk a lot about it. And I always get asked the question, when's the right time to invest in property? And I always say it's always the right time to invest in property. If you can service a mortgage, if you can raise enough capital for a deposit, if you can be confident and comfortable that you can meet your mortgage repayments while still doing all the other stuff you want to do, it's time to invest in property. If you can identify the right type of properties that are going to go up in value over time and help underpin or underwrite the mortgage costs as much as possible, yes, it's the right time to invest in property. So you investing in property, you started at 19. Let's just have a chat about that. Why did you buy a property at 19?
It's a good question. For me, I grew up in Western Sydney and, probably one of the most underprivileged suburbs in Sydney. So I grew up with a single mother on a pension on housing commission. So it was money was always tight for my family anyway. And I realized that, it's the way it is now. But if I do something different compared to what other people around me are doing, and instead of buying that fancy car, which when I was 19, I had roughly about 20,000 saved, I wanted to buy a Mustang, old school 67 Mustang, something like that. But, I thought it'd be much wiser if I put that money into property. And, if that property went up and, come back in 5 years' time, there'll be equity there to use that to, get the house I want to live in and not have to live in that, particular area that I grew up in.
So you grew up in Western Sydney. I'm a Western Sydney boy myself, so It's good to have you on the show. So how did you frame investing in property? Did you have like a mentor, or was there someone that you looked up to who actually said, hey, mate, you should think about doing this rather than that? Because understanding the sort of environment that you grew up within, you don't have a lot of people who have home ownership. It's a big dream for most people just to own a home to live in, let alone to invest in. So was there anyone that sort of directed you the right way, or what influenced you, I think is the question I want to ask you.
I suppose that one of the biggest influences for me is just seeing what everyone around me was doing. And then if I just figured if I did completely the opposite of that, then something would work out different. Majority of, like pretty much still to this day, no one in my family actually owns a home of their own, let alone invest in one, whether it be cousins or immediate family. Basically everyone's still renting. And a lot of the people that I grew up with still renting or on housing commission or, thing like that, and don't have regular jobs as well. So it's just, for me, I just realized that if I purchase properties now, if I get in early, it's basically, having that mindset and purchasing assets that will go up in value, and then I can use later on, and it will put me in a better position as well.
So let's talk about your first property. What did you buy and where was it?
Basically come down to affordability. When it come down to my first property, I purchased a 2-bedroom unit on the Central Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was about 10 minutes away from Wyong.
Okay.
In a suburb called Tuggeranong. Purchase price on that one, it was end of 2010 to 2011. So settled in January 2011, picked it up for $138,000.
Okay, so very affordable.
Absolutely.
And you had 20 grand deposit.
Yeah, roughly around 20 grand, just a bit under that. But yeah.
How'd you raise your 20 grand?
Basically, I worked at McDonald's.
Okay.
And when I was doing my HSC, I had probably the worst grades in all the school. I didn't even know what uni was back in high school, funny enough. But I worked at McDonald's after school for about a year and a half. And then once I turned 18, I got a full-time job.
Yep.
I was still on a very, very small income. At the time, I think the base salary, because I was 18, obviously under 21, you earn a lot less. It was about $26,000 a year income when I was 18.
Okay.
So I basically went to a few different banks, and I went with one. They're like, yep, you can borrow around 140. And I was like, all right, this limits me a bit. But
who was that? Which bank?
St. George was the first one. Yeah.
It's good, mate. It's commendable. So you got your 20K and you bought a place for 138 up in the Central Coast. Did you just go and find that place yourself, or did you just do a search on realestate.com saying, I've got this much money to spend, where do I go? It
was basically, I did look online. I did it all myself. Basically, I was looking within that price range. At first, I looked around the current area. There was nothing in the current area where I lived for around that price range. My family used to go up to holiday at Central Coast all the time, so I was like, that's some place that I actually, know a little bit. And I just always looked at the numbers as well. So the property at the time rented for about $220 a week. So even back then, that was around the 7.5% to 8% rental yield, roughly, just off the top of my head. So I knew, even with the interest rates a bit high back in the day, that it would look after itself.
That was Tuggeranong. Is it Big Westfields there, right? Is that the one?
It's near Tuggerah, but it's Tuggeranong. So it's closer to Wyong, but it's about 20 minutes from Tuggerah. Yeah, okay. It's still pretty central.
And you bought that, 6 years ago?
Yeah, about 6 years ago now.
What's it worth today?
The last bank valuation about 270. I spoke to real estate agents. They say, but that was a while ago. So out now it'd be about 300.
Okay, so he done pretty well. Doubled in value.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So what do all your mates reckon when you bought that first place?
Oh, it was something I was talking about for a long time, and then everyone after a while was like, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. And then finally I did it, and they were like, oh wow, okay. And then after probably about a year or two, another one of my friends bought a property, and he just felt like he was behind the 8 ball because he was a couple of years older than me. But yeah, they were pretty. They didn't have the same mindset. Like, we still went out and had fun and partied on the weekends, but yeah.
So what happened between property 1 and property 2? How long was that?
Too long. Basically, I purchased a second property. I think it was around 2013. Okay. And so I did have probably about 2 years off, and where I just did the thing a usual 19, 20-year-old does, and have a lot of fun. Yeah. But basically, then I started purchasing property again.
Okay, so 2013. So your second property, where did you buy?
I bought in South Australia for that one, actually. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I bought in North South Australia, so in Elizabeth.
And then
half an hour out of the city.
Property number 3.
Property number 3 was in Woodridge.
Okay.
Queensland. Yeah. Brisbane.
Nice. Logan Shire.
That's the one.
Yeah, we got a place on North Road there, which is done really, really well. So
yeah, I heard that in one of the other podcasts.
Yeah, it's really good. So what did you buy there, like a townhouse or a house?
I bought a 1-bedroom unit.
Okay.
1-bedroom unit.
What was that for, like about $90,000?
105.
105. Yeah, very good.
That was all the other ones around the exact same time were going for about 130, and picked up one for 105.
You'd be getting a good yield on that. What sort of?
It was about 11% yield at the time. 220 week rent. Yeah. There's no 1-bedders on the market under 165 at the moment. That's only been 11 months ago.
That was probably 3. What about number 4?
Number 4 was a unit in Surfers Paradise.
Yep.
So Heart of Surfers Paradise, and that was a rental yield of about 9% as well. So generally with my properties, I always try to aim for the highest rental yield. So usually they're in excess of 9%.
Okay, so after Surfers, where'd you go?
After Surfers, I went back to South Australia. A lot of networking with real estate agents. I've been picking up a few things off the market before they come on, just from building that rapport. But that was South Australia in Elizabeth again.
Okay, and number 6?
Number 6 was in, here we go, can't quite remember, Eagleby.
Okay.
Eagleby in Queensland. So that's once again near the Loganshire.
Another apartment?
2-bedroom unit, yeah.
2-bedroom
that's
unit,
right.
cool. And then number 7 and number 8?
Number 7 was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhouse. That's also in Queensland in a suburb called Bundamba.
Okay. The last one that you bought?
And the last one was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom townhouse in Coomera, Queensland.
And all of these are, you're getting sort of good yields on them, right?
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
5-6+%.
Usually above 8%.
Okay,
yeah.
above 8. So your portfolio, is it positively geared now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
How much money does it put in your pocket every month or week?
Per year, it's roughly around the 20 to 25,000 mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the black.
In the pocket. So basically, in terms of all the expenses, when it comes to rental income, I get around 115 per year in rental income. Mortgage repayments, all those about 55,000, and then council rates, water rates, strata, management fees, insurance, all that kind of stuff comes to about just under 40,000. So it's about 90,000 expenses in total, and then 115 in rent.
Okay.
20, 25.
So genuine in the black, not sort of depending on how I slice and dice, I'm in the black. So that's money in your pocket.
Absolutely,
that you
yeah.
can spend on beer if you want.
Oh yeah,
or the next,
and I do. I do.
Hang on a second, got to be responsible. Or the next deposit of the.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So what's your job now? You're still working full time?
Yes, I'm still working full time. So actually, I'm trying to work as hard as I can now, obviously, to in the future that I know I can do what I want. And when it comes to say 2-3 years, 5 years time from now, if I don't want to work full time, I don't have to. But it's something that I have that security then. Help my family as well.
That's good. So what's your job? What do you do?
So I'm in sales. So I work at like a tool. Like Sydney Tools.
Okay.
So as a sales representative.
So it's just selling tools?
Basically, yeah.
Is that in a store or is that sort of going around door to door?
In the store, yeah.
In the store?
In the store.
Where's that? Out west?
Out Penrith, yeah.
Yeah. So you still live out that way?
That's right. That's
okay.
right, yeah.
That's cool. I'm really intrigued. This is what you've been able to achieve in such a short period of time based on what I said beforehand about the trials and tribulations of purchasing property. I think you're proving that Generation Ys can actually go out there and capitalise on market conditions to look at building for their future. And what I like about your story is that you're very clear that this is about giving you a choice in the future, that should you not want to work forever and ever and ever, this is going to give you the options to do that. Now, a portfolio that you have sitting like it is right now, you could stop and just look at that again in 20 or 30 years and it'll be a completely different situation. You could sell down and walk away with whatever.
Absolutely.
But is the idea to keep growing the property portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. As a short-term goal for me, I always I wanted to get originally 10 by 30. I'm up in the ante a little bit. I want to get 10 by 25 now.
Okay.
So while I'm still 25 anyway, so I've got another 9-10 months to get to, which I think is very achievable. Yeah, and I've got the plan and thing in place, and I've got the ability to go again pretty shortly. So beginning next year, I'll hit number 9, 10. So
okay. So what's the total value of your portfolio?
It's roughly around 1.7 million.
You're 1.7, and what's your debt on the portfolio?
Roughly around the debt is about 1.1.
Okay, so you got 600 in equity.
Yeah,
that's not bad over 5-6 years. That you've been able to achieve
100%,
that.
I think.
Are all your loans with the same lender?
No, I split between 2 lenders, with both being Big Four.
Okay,
banks, yeah.
Big Four banks.
Yeah.
Are you finding that it's getting harder to borrow, or are the banks quite happy and comfortable to lend you money still?
At the moment, they're between knowing what I have to do and how much money I need to make to continue servicing. With my portfolio, they're all in excess of 9%. Obviously, every year as well, I put up rental income and maximize it to the full. So some of them are extremely positively geared, and that of course comes back into serviceability when I go for the next one. I've even went to as far as getting a second job. Okay. And working on a bar and on the weekends sometimes as well for extra cash, just to boost up that serviceability. So at the moment, I can quite comfortably go for
So the positive component of your portfolio, the fact that it actually puts money in your pocket, the lender sort of pulls that with your salary you have at work to show your total capacity to earn income and to pay off your mortgage. Do you do all this yourself, or do you have a broker that helps you out with it?
Did a bit of both, really. I've only used a broker once, and at the moment, I pretty much do it all myself. So I like connecting straight towards with the banks in particular, picking the right manager or bank manager, and then sticking with them as long as they can you're sure they're the right one for you.
And you find that the banks are easy to deal with one-on-one. Do they make it difficult for you to show them how you generate income or paint a picture of that you're a good person to lend money to? Is that typically a tough thing, or are they happy to keep lending Because character is one of them, right? They're
Yeah.
going to go, is this bloke just going to blow this money against the wall? Which you obviously are not going to do it because you've got a history or a track record in servicing debt, which is very important. But have you ever had any roadblocks because of your age?
There's certainly been roadblocks.
Yeah.
It's, there's been times where I go to, one lender and then they're like, they say no for, X, Y, Z, or they say, you can't borrow for this reason, or you've had too many basically credit hits on your personal name.
Yeah.
Then that could be whether it be refinancing, 4 in 1 month, or, wiping off credit card or doing something or whatever it may be. But for me, I've learned a lot about how banks go about finance and how you look at a person when dealing with that and getting a loan and everything ready for them. So yeah, it's something that I definitely think is a huge part, if not more important than the property side of things, is learning about the finance.
And do you have any other debt except for mortgage debt? Like, have you got a credit card? And
I used to have a credit card. I wiped it all out. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm completely debt free other than that.
So you don't still have a credit card with a limit on it, or you got rid of your credit
I got
card
rid of it
completely?
altogether, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have a car loan or anything
No,
like
I
that?
actually, I don't have a car loan. I still drive around a pretty cheap little Holden Astra.
Cool.
So, it's just something that I'm going to get a extremely nice car when the time is right, and when the portfolio is up around, made a deal with myself basically. When I hit 10 properties, then I'll get that Mustang that I wanted when I was 19. So
your portfolio is quite interesting in that you don't have anything really within a 50-kilometre radius of where you grew up or where you live right now. You find a lot of people typically invest where they know to start with, and buying in 2010, 2011 out in the western suburbs of Sydney, around where you were, there's some great buys, which were probably just that price point just above where your borrowing capacity would have let you sort of buy sort of Mount Druitt. And we bought a place there in 2010, 11 I think, for like 190 grand on Carlisle, which you'd know, Carlisle Avenue. And another one we bought not far from Westfields there, on Loxford Road for 170 grand and stuff. So they're now doing brilliantly. They're great. It was a great area to buy.
absolutely.
But so you were just slightly priced out of that marketplace.
That's right,
because of where you're at. But the fact that you still went and invested, what would be your sort of biggest number one tip for people sort of the same age who are sitting there contemplating about investing or struggling with the concept of investing, or being the champagne sort of set, or the Chardonnay set, sitting around dinner parties sort of complaining about how they can't get into the market? What would you say to those guys?
Look, I suppose I say there's lots of ways to do it, and it's about, for me, I think it's about getting creative and finding out. First of all, learning how the property market works, learning how finance works, and then of course learning ways that you can use that to your advantage. So if you've got the basic understanding, or if you're just looking at it from the outside, it seems pretty crazy to go on a buying spree of properties. But if you look at it in depth and you study the market and study how things work, then you can see the benefits from it. So it's basically just get creative and just think outside the box.
So with the job that you've got, your full-time job working as a salesperson, has your salary increased much since you sort of had that job? Are you sort of hassling your boss for a pay rise all the time so you can increase your serviceability?
Look, it has definitely increased. I think the last time I was in the media, I think it was on Channel 9 or something. It was that's when I got up to 6 properties, and I was under the 50,000 mark. So it's definitely increased from that, and it's something that I've got to have to continue increasing to obviously build that portfolio. But mixed with the rents, then it's pretty much smooth sailing.
So you were on Channel 9 or something or other. The story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Channel 7 and Channel a few other things.
So how they track that story down? How they sort of find you to do that story?
Yeah, I originally was on Domain. I had a friend. He's been on not Domain, but he was very active in the property forum.
Okay.
And there was a person who was working inside Domain who does the stories regularly, basically. And he's like, why don't you message her? And if you're interested, then I did, and she was like, absolutely, would love to do that story.
Okay.
So I did that, and then that of course led to another story, and that led to another story, and then I had people messaging on Facebook, and the list goes on.
Did you get any haters? Was everyone quite sort of positive?
Oh, I think you always get haters sometimes. Yeah.
What sort of remarks did you get from the haters? What sort of stuff were they saying on the sort of comment fields and stuff?
It was, you have to try to not look at it sometimes, but it's just a lot of things. A lot of them are funny. There was a photo when I was in Domain, and there was my little old Holden Astra behind me, and everyone's like, forget about his houses, look at his mint car. Or just there's lots of different things like that. Or just say, oh, I bet you he robbed a bank to get that money or something. Just crazy stuff.
Do your mates back in out where you grew up, do they sort of know what you've been doing and where you're at with all this?
Yeah, absolutely. Like after things in the media came out, of course they're all like, oh yeah, good on you, and all that kind of stuff, and so they definitely know.
And do you think you've inspired any of them to sort of think about their goals in terms of wealth creation any differently?
I think so, and I hope so. It's something that it definitely doesn't happen overnight, but if you just stick to it, you can do it in the background. Among with going on with your normal life, and you can take small baby steps and get started in the market. So
how do you find the time to do all this, sort of, as well as working a job and even on the weekends? Like, are you diligent and say, I'm going to spend 2 hours to do this, or do you just love it so much you're just always looking through real estate or something or other?
Pretty much. I'm quite addicted to that. It's something that's I'll jump on realestate.com or call up real estate agents and just actively look at what the market's doing in every different state. So keeping an eye out on potential areas for growth, and just all throughout Australia, and also the geographical looking throughout, just learning the fundamentals of the actual Australian market.
So I'm blown away how you've been able to achieve this, mate, because the stuff you're buying isn't probably the most glamorous properties around. They're 130, 140, 150, 60,000 bucks. One of the sort of ongoing, I guess, dialogues on the Smart Property Investment Show is that, and we've seen it time and time again, where people think you need to invest in property that is blue chip off the plan apartments in Bondi Junction, right? Because that's the best place to invest. And I like watching people's paradigm change when they start educating themselves a lot more about property and realizing that it's not about how nice the property looks, or whether it's got the fanciest soft furnishings, or whether it's got a swimming pool and a gym. It's about the basic fundamentals of property investment. Is the thing going to go up in value? Why is it going to go up in value? Are you going to keep people in the property to be paying the rent, so it's not going to cost you too much money, right? It's basic stuff. And the type of properties that you're buying are, they're the lower sort of percentiles, I think, but you're getting yields of 8+%, putting cash in your back pocket, and they all seem to be tracking quite well in terms of capital growth, which is key. How do you go about managing all these things? Because none of them, except for your first one, is in New South Wales, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely have property managers. I don't try to manage them myself or anything like that. So it's a lot of those properties are purchased without even actually seeing the location. So I purchased sight unseen for a lot of them, or I've been throughout for the Queensland ones, for example, been throughout the market a lot, and just looked at areas and studied the area and things like that. But when I actually purchased probably about 3 or 4 of them, they're sight unseen. So it's something from me being in New South Wales. There's a lot of things can be done, online, and I don't think that it's more so having that emotional attachment when a person wants to go out there and touch and feel and look in the property and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, if something's wrong with the property internally and you're not qualified pest building inspector, you're not going to know what's wrong with it in any way. Bottom line, you're going to get a pest and building inspector to go through it and do those checks anyway. So, and
it doesn't concern you not seeing these properties before you buy them?
No, not at all.
So what's your sort of checklist then to make sure that it's okay purchase, it's a good purchase, because you're not seeing them, so you're not getting that sort of ground truth. But is there anyone you're leaning on to help you out to do this, or what are these checklists that says it's got yes, I'll buy it?
Well, I've got basically a pest and building inspector I go through. In Queensland, I've built a good relationship, so it's basically having eyes on the ground there. When I'm purchasing properties, I always try to purchase them that are well undervalued. So if we're looking at the cheapest property I bought, the one in Woodridge, for 105, 2 months previous, the one next door sold for about 135, and then one before that sold for 125, and now they're all 165 and 175. So it's it's just getting that property under market value.
So you're sort of manufacturing equity at purchase, not doing as a renovation or anything, but you're buying it under market value. So that's where your big gain is. And how do you work out whether or not something is under market value? Is it just by comparing it against recent sales, or is there anything else that you can do? That's
a huge one. It's knowing, for me, I think the second thing is how banks value properties, and after purchasing the first 2, 3, 4 properties, you get a kind of a knack to find out which one will work out the best and be in your favor when it comes to actually getting the property valued. What time length after you can actually get the property valued. Some banks will see you can do it in 6 months. Some banks you already know, but you have to do it over 12 or 2 years down the track or something like that. So that kind of locks in your equity, and you can able to pull that out to go again, depending on what bank you go with.
Are you going to pull equity out of these properties to purchase number 9 and 10? Is that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always like to have it a bit half and half. So I always try to genuine savings as well, probably about 50%. And then if I need to pull equity out, then I'll do that as well. But I like to have my LVR pretty low in the, between the 60, 70, 75%.
Per property or the whole portfolio?
The whole portfolio overall.
Okay.
So some may be in the 60s and some may be in the 80 or, 90 mark. But general, it's around that.
And you're borrowing at 90% LVR?
No. So I borrowed a few at 90% in the past, and then of course they've gone up and things like that, and then I've drew them down to maybe 80%, and then the markets went up again, and then I purchased in majority of them were 20% deposits.
Okay, that's good. So number 9 and 10 will be 80% lends, will they?
Yeah, if I can squeeze another maybe 10% out to maximize the leverage, and then I might do another 20 depending on how many more I'm going to buy next year.
Good. And where's the top tip? Where are you going to be buying these things?
For me, I'm actually looking, like I suppose a lot of people are looking around the Queensland. I tend to buy only metro stuff, so I don't like really touching on regional stuff or anything like that. Not to say one day I won't or I will, but at the moment the large bulk of my properties are within half an hour to a CBD. So Queensland, and also I'd like to go back to South Australia, but more within that 10-15k radius where you can still pick up more blue chip properties for around the 200,000 mark in South Australia.
Mate, it's impressive what you're doing. We'll have to get you back on when you get to that magic number 10. You can pull up in a fancy Mustang and
absolutely
take us for a hoot around the block. But let's finish up, mate. What's your number one tip for all those procrastinators out there who are sort of early 20s thinking about investing?
That's a big one, put on the spot. I guess number one is just get yourself educated, because of course if you take action without being educated, disastrous things can happen. So you've got to get educated. You've got to speak to people who've done it before. You've got to take the time and dedicate some time to learn about the market, finance, a huge thing, and just get started.
Just get going with it. Good. Thanks, mate.
Thanks
Appreciate
very much.
your time. Yeah, no, really enjoy the chat. It's I wish I started when I was a bit younger, or a lot younger. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you liked Eddie's story, have you got any questions for him, please contact me, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, and we'll try and get them answered. There's a million other things I'd want to ask Eddie, so we'll make sure we get him back, but please touch base with us if you want to know anything. Remember to check us out on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We're also on all the Twitter and Facebook stuff. Just search for it. You can also follow me at Philip Tarrant on Twitter if you'd like. Keep the podcast reviews coming along. We're tracking really well. 5 stars is the best. Don't leave any 1-star reviews, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. And a bit of a comment if there's anything at all. But keep connected. Keep letting us know what you want, and we'll make sure we cover it off. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.